Now we continue to take you through the different decades and broader eras of independence that Kenya has been through in the last 60 years. We are building experiences around significant occurrences and events that shaped Kenya through the stories of people who lived through them. Tonight on our Kenya at 60 special, we hear from a generation that says it is often misunderstood, the group that was born in the mid to late 1990s and experienced the early 2000s. And who better to take us there than our very own Rukia Bule. Rukia, what do you guys have for us?
Well done. For us, the early 2000s were a time like no other, from historic elections to great global wins for Kenyans, and not to forget the unbeatable music. For us, it's unbeatable. My generation has rubbed people the wrong way with the way we think and behave, our opinionated and bold positions, and more. Some of my peers and I sat down to share some recollections of growing up in the early 2000s.
We just want to understand what it was like growing in the early 2000s. And the first question I have for all of you is, what is one memory that you have from the early 2000s? It could be, let's start with political, then we can move on to the different aspects. 2005
referendum, we had the yes and no, we had the orange, banana. So that, for me, that was really the most, the one that really stood out, you know, the fruit symbols, the orange and banana, 2005 referendum, and like guys saying yes and no, and I was like, what is this yes and no going on? Like, you know, why should I say yes and why should I say no? So I think that's the most fond memory of me.
Political moment for me was in 2007. I think most people, if they remember, that was the post-election violence. And for me, I felt it because we kind of had to leave our home for a period of time because I lived in Langata at that time with my parents, and I was quite young. And everything had come to a standstill, and you could, that's the first time I think I had bullets for the, like really had bullets. And then also there was a time I was here in the CBD and we were running away from tear gas because PNU, it was PNU and ODM supporters were clashing. So it was really chaotic, I think, and I think that also made me understand like politics in Kenya is not quite stable.
The election period had seen my parents waking up very early in the morning to go and queue in the polling stations, the mark on your finger to indicate that you had voted. And I remember I'd really look forward to growing up so that I'd be able to vote myself.
How about any social or any other childhood memory you have of the early 2000s?
For me, when that show was like a big deal, like it was bouncing castle, face paint, Nini, and all those things. Yeah, so that's the most fond social memory of my childhood. Yes,
very social. I think we're maybe the last of our generation who actually used to play, like used to actually play games. We'd literally have the time when we'd watch certain cartoon shows that come at like 5 p.m. or something. But before that, literally when you come from school, it's just games, rounders, kati. We had a lot of fun, I think, at that time. Right now, I think I even walk through estates and I'm like, are there any children in this area? Because you don't really see them playing. So we didn't have the luxury of always having devices and mobile phones. So we literally had to interact with each other. That's what I really enjoyed about it.
I'd say the throwback songs. I'm sure like most of the songs we have right now, they don't slap as much as those songs used to slap back then. I remember I used to run from school and then Nena Unasha the beat, Kina Mad tracks back then when like songs were like actual songs and hits and bangers. Yeah,
you know, some of our parents would tell us things like they would walk to school barefoot. Do you guys believe that? And are there any difficulties that you guys went through growing up?
History kwenda barefoot, I mean, sijui na pia watu walikuwa number one. It's true, like I'm like nani alikuwa wa mwisho, you guys. You know, if my mom, my dad was like number one and also going, you know, we're walking 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers to school. I'm like, bro, like, I mean, see must. Hey, I think if I had the option of like being told that I have to walk 10 kilometers to school barefoot, I'd be like, apana, chentu nichunye tu ng'ombe zangu, niuze maziwa. I mean, that's what I will definitely do, to be very honest.
For me, my parents were quite honest because when I went to the home squares, I actually saw how far the school was and I could see, yeah, these guys actually walked because there was no like car. Maybe a bicycle, but you had to be like rich to have a bicycle at that time. Like I can't imagine. Something I didn't like about school was how we used to get beaten. I think at our time it was vigorous. Like we used to get these guys used to even like have special rods for beating you. Literally, it's like he's been looking for this road all his life, and he's like found the perfect one.
I feel like our parents use that as an excuse to invalidate the challenges we as Gen Zs do actually go through. But then again, I see where they're coming from, because even me, when I'm talking to my younger sisters, I do exaggerate some of these stories. I studied in a school in Kiambu, iko katikati ya Kahawa, in the middle of nowhere. So I'd be there giving them stories that uko na batu umesomea tao, mimi unajua nilikuwa in the middle of nowhere with wild animals. So I feel like it's been passed down.
We're trying to understand, what does Madaraka Day mean to the different generations? So individually, personally, what does Madaraka Day mean to you?
Now it's not really, si kama kitambo. In national holidays, nakumbuka nikiwa mdogo in primary kwenda chini, holidays unapata kila mahali kumefungwa, guys are watching these public events and it's really going on. You know, we're loving the protocol. We're seeing the president come in that Land Rover, saying hi to people, doing the whole march past thing. So that's what really I kind of liked growing up. It was a culture that we had, but right now, so then watch, definitely now I'm seeing the president coming to give a speech on Madaraka Day or like Jamhuri Day. I'll just maybe wait for the bites on social media, just maybe get to hear what this president talk about, who I actually attended.
I understand that Madaraka Day is like when Kenya finally got to actually rule itself first, before we actually got full independence, like in December. So it's like the first step towards our freedoms. So are we actually feeling the freedom at this point? That's the real question, because I feel Kenyans are actually feeling more caged than ever, financially, mentally, and I hope this day actually means what it's supposed to mean in the years to come.
So I feel it's important to commemorate such events, because you're able to gauge the achievements we've made as a country, like where are we from, where are we right now, and helps predict even the future. And like what Joseph said, I'm not the one to sit at home and follow up on those live proceedings on the TV, but it's a nice day to rest and take a break from the normal hustle and bustle of Nairobi.
I think your generation is known for being one of the first to know life with gadgets. Do you see your life, without any electronics?
Definitely no. I don't think there's a life without it, because nowadays people are making money out of this social media era. Guys are sharing content out here. For me to know what's actually happening, I can know where the president is, I can know what Obama ate for dinner, I can know, they just put it out there. So I think this is the new norm and we should actually embrace it.
There's pros and cons to it, and the pros obviously outweigh it. The cons include like mental health, and we're now dealing with issues of cyberbullying and people using social media for other means other than what it's intended to be social. And I am glad that we got the chance to at least learn how everything else in the world works. Like, we had a very big access to information. That includes, like, we didn't have to wait to read a book. We could actually search it online. I didn't have to get lost in town. I could use Google Maps. Sometimes even you can connect with people from another country right now, and it's so interesting to even find out what they do there. So I know Gen Zs can be called know-it-alls because of that, but it's because they've grown up with so much information around them.
I don't think there'd be a life without like social media, the internet, especially with the high unemployment rate amongst us, the youths. You see, like, for me, who can't sit down and watch TV, I get full up on such issues on the internet, like Twitter, see what's trending. So even if I don't even watch the Madaraka proceedings live on TV, I can get to know the highlights, what happened, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything.
Gen Zs are known for not conforming to society, doing things their way. They walk into the working world and they pretty much set their own rules. What do you think the future of Kenya looks like, since in the next few years Gen Zs will be in leadership positions?
I think we're in a good space, like where watu wanaweza jiongea, like si lazima nifinyiliwe for me to feel some type of way. And also, again, we have to give them credit, because I mean, these guys can do like 2-3 jobs, multiple jobs, like, as long as you're giving them a good workspace, they can be able to talk about their issues. How am I feeling? Am I comfortable doing this particular interview? Am I comfortable being here? Am I comfortable doing this? Kitambo is the time, you're being told, apana, don't ask questions now, do it, ask why later. I mean, that's like kind of cliche, and it was really affecting people, because unapata people like on traumas wamekuwa nazo, now they're passing down to us. So to us, like tunasema tunakataa, we're like, no, we don't want these traumas. If you suffered in a certain way, please make this environment conducive for me to work, and in that way I'll be able to be productive 100%.
I think that Gen Zs are very innovative people, and that can help a country a lot. Just thinking about solutions on the spot is something I think we really need at this point, because we keep going back to the old ways. Let's say like right now we are thinking about loans and stuff like that. I think we need more efficiency, and that's something that we can provide. The leaders that be Gen Z would be quite interesting, because I'd imagine our leaders would have social media pages. They'd probably post dance videos. That would be really interesting to watch. So I hope to see that.
So I feel we are bold enough to try the unthinkable. Like, people right now are quitting their jobs, their like formal jobs, to venture into things such as content creation, working from home. And like the older generation, our parents, they don't understand these things. Like, I'm doing law and I don't plan on practicing it, so that's why I'm seated here in the middle of a park shooting such content, because I feel like there's a future and it's looking bright.
What a time to be Gen Z. From the video, you can tell how well they can articulate themselves, how well they can express themselves. And it's a time when Gen Zs are taking up not only the corporate world and the digital space now more than ever. One thing that really stood out to me, Dan, is the way Jose was saying, if all our parents were number one, who was number last in that class? Honestly, I remember my mom would tell me she'd walk so far to school, and I'm thinking...
do you believe her?
And I really don't until I see it for myself. Did you walk far to school, Dan?
Well, I did at times, and I'll actually probably share my story as we do about the stories of those who grew up in the 90s. And interestingly, my late dad actually showed me some of his report forms, and he actually was around number one a number of times. So I was cynical, but yeah, he actually was number one. Thanks very much, Rukia Bule, for that, and we shall be giving you more experiences as we continue with our Kenya at 60 coverage on NTV and on the Nation Media Group's platforms across the board.